The winter morning in the small western town began like any other. A thin layer of frost covered the roofs, the wooden sidewalks, and the small train station at the edge of town. People moved slowly, warming their hands with cups of coffee or keeping them inside their coats. Life was simple here, quiet and steady. Nobody expected anything unusual that day. Daniel Reeves, a lonely rancher who lived miles away from town, arrived at the station early. He stood near the platform, boots planted firmly on the wooden boards. He didn't look nervous, but his heart beat a little quicker than usual. He had never ordered a bride before. He had written a simple letter weeks ago, offering honest work, food, shelter, a home, and respectful company. He did not know if anyone would reply. He also did not know if he was ready for such a big change. Daniel was a tall man with strong shoulders, sun-browned skin, and quiet eyes. People in town respected him because he always helped when needed and never spoke harshly to anyone. But he lived alone. His ranch sat on wide land surrounded by hills, and although he enjoyed the peace, the silence had grown heavy over the years. He kept checking the clock on the station wall. The train should arrive soon. He wondered what the woman would be like. Would she be scared? Would she be cheerful? Would she regret coming? He hoped she would feel safe with him. That was the only promise he knew he could keep. The distant whistle of a train cut through the cold wind. People looked up, preparing to step aside. Steam rose into the air as the train slowed down, brakes screeching lightly. Passengers began stepping out, some greeting family, some carrying bags, some looking around with confusion. Daniel searched the faces carefully, and then he saw her. She stood near the train's steps, holding a small brown bag with both hands. She wore a simple dress, a long coat, and boots that looked worn. Her hair was tied loosely behind her head. Her shoulders were tense. At first, she seemed like any other traveler, nervous, tired, uncertain. But when she lifted her head and stepped into the morning light, Daniel froze. There were faint bruises on the side of her face. Not fresh, not bleeding, but visible enough to show that life had been hard on her recently. She tried to hide part of her face behind her hair, but the wind pushed it away. She pulled her coat tighter around herself and looked around as if searching for someone who might recognize her. Her eyes held both fear and hope. Daniel approached slowly, not wanting to scare her. "Are you Evelyn?" he asked gently. The woman's hands tightened around her small bag. She nodded once. "Yes, you must be Daniel Reeves." Her voice was soft, but carried a tired strength. Daniel noticed another faint bruise near her wrist where her coat sleeve shifted. He didn't ask about it. His heart tightened, but he kept his face calm. "Yes, ma'am. I'm Daniel," he replied. "I'm here to take you to the ranch. But first, you look cold. Would you like my coat?" She blinked, confused by the offer. Many men would not care. Many might not even notice. But Daniel was different. Evelyn hesitated, then nodded. "Thank you." Daniel removed his thick wool coat and placed it carefully around her shoulders. She looked small inside it, but the warmth brought a slow, fragile sigh from her lips. Town people stared. Some whispered. A few looked curious. Others looked sorry for her. Evelyn saw them watching and lowered her head. She didn't want attention. She didn't want questions. Daniel noticed her unease. He stood slightly in front of her, blocking the view of the curious eyes. "Let's go," he said quietly. "No rush. Take your time." They walked toward his wagon. Each step Evelyn took seemed to cost effort, not because of pain alone, but because she was stepping into a new life. Leaving everything familiar behind, Daniel helped her into the wagon gently. He placed her bag beside her and covered her with an extra blanket he had brought. "Are you warm enough?" he asked. "Yes," she whispered. Her hands trembled a little, but her voice steadied. "Thank you." Daniel climbed into his seat and took the reins, but he didn't start moving yet. He turned slightly, speaking softly so she wouldn't feel pressured. "If you need to stop somewhere before the ranch, let me know. Or if you need anything. Even just a moment to breathe." Evelyn lowered her eyes, touched by his kindness. "You're very considerate, Mr. Reeves." "You can call me Daniel," he said with a small smile. Only if you feel comfortable, she nodded faintly. Before he could start the wagon, someone called from the station. It was Dr. Whitmore, the town's older doctor with round glasses and silver hair. He had noticed Evelyn's condition. Daniel. He called as he walked over. Before you head out, bring the young lady by the clinic. It's cold, and long travel can make old injuries ache worse. Evelyn looked frightened at the suggestion, but Daniel spoke gently. Only if you want to. It's your choice. Evelyn hesitated. She didn't want strangers asking questions, but her skin did ache, and the cold worsened the discomfort. After a long breath, she nodded. The doctor walked with them, guiding the wagon toward the clinic. Evelyn watched Daniel from the corner of her eye. He didn't ask what happened to her. He didn't show pity in a way that made her feel small. His calm presence eased the fear pressing on her chest. Inside the clinic, Dr. Whitmore asked her simple questions, no painful ones. He checked her bruises gently and spoke in a reassuring tone. These look like old injuries, not new ones. You'll heal fine. Just rest, eat well, and stay warm. Evelyn nodded quietly. Daniel waited outside the examination room, hands folded, eyes focused on the floor. He didn't pace. He didn't look impatient. He simply waited with steady patience. When Evelyn stepped out, the doctor pulled Daniel aside and whispered, "She needs care. Gentle care. Make sure she gets rest." Daniel nodded firmly. "I'll take care of her." They left the clinic, and Daniel helped her into the wagon again. The afternoon sun shone softly, making the frost on the rooftops sparkle as they finally left town behind. Evelyn looked at the wide land ahead. Hills rolled like gentle waves, and the sky stretched endlessly. It was quiet, peaceful, very different from the place she had come from. The wagon wheels creaked softly on the dirt road. The horses trotted at a steady pace. Daniel kept glancing at her to make sure she was comfortable. "Is the road too rough?" he asked. "No," she said. "It's fine. The air is different here, it feels lighter." Daniel smiled at that. The land here has its own peace. Takes time to feel it, but once you do, it stays with you. Evelyn turned her gaze toward the horizon. For the first time in many weeks, she let herself relax slightly. She wasn't fully at ease, yet trust didn't grow in 1 hour, but she felt a thin line of safety surrounding her, like a soft blanket around her heart. Daniel didn't try to talk too much. He respected her silence. He only spoke when the wagon hit a bump or when he pointed out a place on the land. "That creek over there feeds into my ranch's pond," he said. "Sometimes deer come to drink water there." Evelyn listened quietly, absorbing the calmness in his voice. After a long while, she asked softly, "Why did you choose to write a letter? To find a bride this way?" Daniel didn't look surprised. He kept his eyes on the road while answering honestly. "Life gets lonely on a ranch. I wanted someone to share the days with. Someone kind. Someone who wants peace." I didn't expect anyone to reply, but when your letter came, it felt right. Evelyn looked down at her hands. "I wasn't sure if you would want someone like me." Daniel turned his head slightly. Not enough to make her nervous, but enough to show sincerity. "I don't judge you. And I don't need to know anything you're not ready to share." Evelyn felt a tight knot in her chest loosen. The rest of the ride passed quietly. The sun began to set, painting the sky with orange and pink streaks. The ranch finally came into view, a strong wooden house with a barn beside it. Fields stretching beyond. Evelyn stared at it. Feeling a mix of fear and hope, Daniel helped her down from the wagon. "This is your home now," he said softly. "Only if you want it to be." Evelyn didn't speak immediately. She looked at the house, the land, the steady man standing beside her, for the first time in a long time. She felt that maybe, just maybe, her life could start again. She nodded slowly, and with that small nod, a new chapter of her life quietly began. The sun rose slowly over Daniel's ranch, touching the fields with soft gold and warming the frost-covered grass. Birds began singing near the fence line, and a gentle breeze brushed the tops of the pine trees. It was a peaceful morning, one that felt calmer than any Evelyn had known for months. She woke up in a small but clean room inside Daniel's farmhouse. The bed was soft, the blanket warm, and the window let in a soft light. She hadn't slept well for weeks before coming here, but last night she slept deeply, almost without waking. Her body still ached in some places, but her mind felt a little lighter. Evelyn sat up slowly, listening to the quiet of the house. Somewhere in the distance, she heard the low whinny of horses. Then she heard footsteps outside her door, Daniel moving around gently so he wouldn't disturb her. She got dressed, wearing a simple dress she had brought with her. When she stepped out into the hallway, Daniel was already in the kitchen. Boiling water for tea, he looked up, surprised but happy. "Good morning. Hope you slept well," Evelyn nodded. "Yes. Much better than before." She hesitated, then added softly, "Thank you." "You don't have to thank me," Daniel said kindly. "This is your home now, and you deserve a peaceful morning." The way he said it, calm, honest, without expectation, made her chest warm. He handed her a cup of warm tea and placed fresh bread and butter on the table. "Eat first. You need strength. Ranch life is easier when you're warm and fed." Evelyn sat down. Her hand shook slightly, not from fear this time, but from the simple emotion of being treated gently. She couldn't remember the last time someone served her breakfast without anger or judgment, while she ate quietly. Daniel moved around the kitchen. He wasn't loud or rushing. His movements were steady, peaceful. Evelyn found herself calming down just by watching him. After breakfast, Daniel stepped outside to feed the horses. Evelyn followed, wanting fresh air. The morning sky was clear blue. The air smelled like pine and clean earth. Daniel opened the gate and walked into the corral where his two horses, Dusty and Amber, waited. Dusty, a chestnut stallion, snorted happily when he saw Daniel. Amber, a calm mare with a white blaze on her forehead, lifted her head with gentle curiosity. Evelyn stopped near the fence. The horses fascinated her, but she wasn't sure if she should get too close. Daniel noticed her hesitation. "They're friendly," he said warmly. "Especially Amber. She won't even step on a bug if she can avoid it." Evelyn stepped a little closer. Amber pressed her nose toward her, sniffing her hand. Evelyn smiled, a small smile, soft but real. It was the first true smile Daniel had seen on her face since she arrived. "She likes you," Daniel said. "Amber has a sense for gentle people." Evelyn touched the mare's head lightly and felt a comforting warmth travel through her fingertips. "She's beautiful," she whispered. "She is," Daniel agreed. "Took me years to earn her trust. But once you have it, she gives it fully." Evelyn felt those words in her heart. Trust was something she had almost forgotten. Daniel gave her space to enjoy the moment. He kept working, checking the hay, filling water troughs, and mending a loose rail on the fence. Evelyn watched him move through his chores with quiet focus. He didn't show off, didn't try to impress her. He simply worked, calmly and honestly. After a while, she walked over to him. "Can I help?" Daniel looked up quickly. "Only if you want to. I don't expect anything from you." "I want to," she said. "Doing something helps me feel steady," he nodded thoughtfully. "All right then. But only small tasks today. You need time to rest." He handed her a small bucket of feed. "You can give this to Amber." Evelyn took the bucket carefully and stepped toward the mare. Amber nuzzled her gently as she ate, and Evelyn laughed softly. The sound surprised her. It had been a long time since she laughed without fear behind it. Daniel watched from a distance. The sight of Evelyn smiling felt like watching a flower slowly open after a long winter. Later that morning, Daniel showed her around the ranch. They walked past the barn, the small tool shed, the chicken coop, and the quiet pond behind the house. Ducks floated lazily on the surface, and the water reflected the bright sky. "This place is peaceful," Evelyn said quietly. "It is," Daniel agreed. "I built most of it myself. Took years, but it kept me busy." They stopped near the porch where a wooden bench stood. "You can sit here any time you want," Daniel said. "The sunsets are beautiful from this spot." Evelyn ran her fingers along the smooth wood of the bench. She imagined herself sitting there in the evening, watching the sky change colors. The thought brought her comfort, By afternoon, Evelyn helped Daniel wash some dishes and sweep the kitchen floor. She moved slowly, but she insisted on helping. She didn't want to feel like a burden. Daniel appreciated her effort, but reminded her to rest often. "Your health comes first," he said gently. "Everything else can wait." Evelyn looked down shyly. "I'm not used to being cared for." Daniel paused, then spoke softly. "You deserve care. Everyone does." The sincerity in his tone made her eyes sting slightly, but she blinked the feeling away as the day warmed. Daniel went out to fix a broken section of the fence. Evelyn watched from the porch at first, then walked over to offer help. She picked up fallen nails, held wooden boards steady, and passed Daniel tools when he needed them. They worked side by side in comfortable silence. At one point, Evelyn stumbled slightly when the ground shifted under her foot. Daniel reacted instantly, steadying her by lightly placing a hand near her elbow, gentle, respectful, without gripping tightly. "You all right?" he asked. "Yes," she said quickly. "Just lost my step." Daniel stepped back, giving her space. He didn't make her feel embarrassed or weak. She appreciated that deeply. Later, they rested under the shade of a tall pine tree. Daniel handed her a cup of cool water. "You're stronger than you think," he said after a moment. Evelyn's eyes lowered. "I don't feel strong." "Strength isn't always loud," he replied. "Sometimes it's just continuing, even when it's hard." Evelyn held his words close. They warmed her like sunlight. As afternoon turned to evening, they walked back toward the house. The sky was orange and pink again, painting the land with soft beauty. Inside the kitchen, Evelyn prepared a simple dinner vegetable, stew, and warm bread. Daniel helped chop the vegetables and stirred the pot while she arranged the plates. They moved easily around each other, like two people learning a rhythm without words. During the meal, spoke about simple things: the weather, the crops, the ranch chores. Daniel never asked about her past. He didn't want her to relive anything painful. Evelyn noticed that, and it made her feel safe. After dinner, Daniel stepped outside to check on the animals one last time. Evelyn stood at the window and watched him walk across the yard, lantern in hand. His figure looked steady against the fading light. She felt something new rise in her chest, not fear, not worry, but a quiet comfort. When Daniel returned, he found Evelyn sitting on the porch bench, wrapped in a blanket. "Do you mind if I sit here too?" he asked. She shook her head. "No, please." He sat down beside her, leaving a respectful amount of space. Together, they watched the stars appear one by one in the sky. The night air was cool, but gentle. After a long silence, Evelyn spoke softly. "Thank you for today." Daniel looked at her with calm sincerity. "You don't owe me thanks. I'm glad you're here. That's all." Evelyn turned her face toward the sky, letting his words settle inside her. She felt a deep sense of peace, something she hadn't felt in a very long time. The land was quiet, the stars bright, and the man beside her kind. For the first time since she arrived, she believed that maybe this place really could be her new beginning. As the night grew colder, Daniel stood. "You should rest. Tomorrow will be a little easier." Evelyn nodded and stood too. Before going inside, she paused and looked at him. "I feel safe here," she said quietly. Daniel's eyes softened. "I'm glad." "You're safe here, Evelyn. Always." She carried those words with her as she returned to her room. They echoed in her mind long after she lay down. Outside, the wind moved gently through the trees, and the ranch settled into peaceful silence. Evelyn closed her eyes and felt for the first time in years that she was somewhere she belonged. The next few days on the ranch passed with a gentle rhythm. Evelyn woke early, helped Daniel with small tasks, and slowly regained her strength. The bruises on her skin began to fade, and the tension in her shoulders softened. Each day felt a little brighter, as if the land itself was helping her heal. Daniel noticed these changes. He never commented directly, but whenever he saw her smiling softly or moving with more confidence, a quiet warmth filled his chest. He didn't push her to talk, didn't ask for explanations. He simply let her be, giving her steady support like a strong tree offering shade. One calm morning, Evelyn helped Daniel clean the barn. Sunlight filtered through the wooden gaps, creating golden stripes across the hay-covered floor. Dust floated gently in the air, and the horses snorted softly. Evelyn wiped her hands on her apron and looked at Daniel. "Your ranch is peaceful," she said. Daniel smiled. "I try to keep it that way. Peace is important." Evelyn nodded, feeling the truth of his words settle inside her. She liked working beside him. Their movements matched naturally, and their silence felt calm. Not heavy, but peace, as she soon learned. Could be fragile. A week after Evelyn's arrival, Daniel needed some supplies from town flour, rope, medicine, and a few tools. Evelyn asked if she could go with him. She wanted to choose fabric to sew new clothes and buy fresh herbs for tea. Daniel agreed, but he kept a gentle eye on her the whole ride. The wagon rolled over the dusty road, the sky clear and wide above them. When they reached town, people greeted Daniel warmly, and many smiled kindly at Evelyn. Word of her arrival had spread, but most townsfolk were decent-hearted. Offering her respectful nods and warm greetings, Evelyn relaxed a little. She walked with Daniel to the general store, choosing soft cotton fabric and simple sewing needles. Daniel carried the bundles while she browsed quietly as they were paying for the items. Evelyn heard a voice she never wanted to hear again. Evelyn. Her heart froze. The voice belonged to a man she had hoped never to see again, a man from her past. Someone who had made her spirit shrink and her hope fade. He stood at the doorway, broad-shouldered, dusty from travel. His eyes fixed on her with unwelcome familiarity. Evelyn's hands trembled. She didn't speak. "She'll see." "What?" Daniel looked from her to the man, his expression steady but sharp. "You know him?" Evelyn swallowed hard but didn't answer. Her silence was enough for Daniel to understand the truth. The man stepped closer. "You left without telling anyone," he said, trying to sound calm, but with a hard edge in his voice. "You need to come back." Evelyn stepped back instinctively. The room suddenly felt smaller, the air too tight. Daniel moved between them, not aggressively, but firmly placing himself as a quiet shield. "She doesn't want to go with you," Daniel said. His tone even and controlled. The man scoffed. "This is none of your business. She belongs with Daniel," cut him off gently. "She belongs where she feels safe, and that is not with you." The general store fell silent. A few townsfolk who were inside paused and watched with concern. They knew Daniel's character, and they knew trouble when they saw it. Evelyn's breathing was shaky. Her hands held the edge of the counter for support. Every nerve in her body told her to run, but Daniel's steady presence kept her grounded. The man tried to step around Daniel, but Daniel adjusted his stance, calmly blocking him again. "I'm not here to argue," Daniel said, "but she will not go with you." The man glared. "You don't know anything about. I know enough," Daniel replied. "I know she came here for peace, and I won't let that be taken away." Something in Daniel's voice, calm but unyielding, made several men in the shop stand a little straighter. A few of them drifted closer, not intervening directly, but showing silent support. The storekeeper, Mr. Jenkins, folded his arms and stepped behind Evelyn. The man looked around and realized he wasn't going to win. Not here, and not today. Frustration tightened his jaw. He stepped back and muttered, "This isn't over." Daniel didn't respond to the threat. He simply stood with quiet strength until the man finally turned and walked out of the store. Evelyn let out a shaky breath she had been holding for too long. Daniel turned to her, his voice gentle again. "Are you all right?" She nodded faintly, though her eyes were wet. "Thank you," she whispered. "Let's go," Daniel said softly. "You don't have to stay here a moment longer." He guided her out of the store, keeping near in case she needed support. But he didn't touch her without permission. He respected her space. They climbed back into the wagon. Evelyn stared at her hands, her thoughts tumbling in confusion and fear. Daniel gave her a moment before speaking. "You're safe," he said quietly. "You don't have to be afraid now." Evelyn finally looked at him, her eyes full of emotion. "He followed me," she whispered. "He came all this way. He won't take you," Daniel replied. You're not alone anymore. Her breath trembled. Relief mixed with fear and something else, gratitude. Deep and steady, they rode back to the ranch in silence, but it was a comforting silence. The land felt even more peaceful when they reached it, as if welcoming her home. That evening, Evelyn sat on the porch bench, wrapped in a blanket. She watched the sunset paint the sky in warm colors. Daniel joined her quietly, carrying 2 cups of warm tea. He handed one to her. She accepted it with gentle hands. After a long moment, Evelyn spoke. I never wanted anyone to find me. I just wanted a place to breathe. A place where I could start again. Daniel nodded. You have that here. Evelyn looked down at her cup. Can I tell you something? Only if you don't mind listening. Daniel's voice was soft. I'll listen to anything you want to share. Evelyn took a slow breath. And for the first time, she shared the truth, not in painful detail, but in simple, clear words. She spoke about living in a place where she wasn't respected, where she felt small and unimportant. She explained that she answered Daniel's letter because she needed a chance to escape, a chance to build a life where kindness existed. Daniel didn't interrupt, didn't ask questions, didn't judge. When she finished, he spoke gently. You're stronger than you know, Evelyn. Leaving a hard place takes courage. Evelyn wiped her eyes softly. I didn't want to be a burden to you. You're not a burden, Daniel said firmly. You're a human being who deserves peace. And you're welcome here, not because you owe me anything, but because this place can be your home if you choose it. Evelyn felt something warm bloom in her chest. A soft feeling. A feeling of belonging. Later that night, she walked through the house quietly. Touching the wooden walls, the handmade furniture, the small kitchen filled with warm light, every corner felt safe. This ranch wasn't just a place, it was a shelter for her heart. Days passed, and the man from her past never returned. Some townsfolk had seen him leave the town quickly, his pride bruised and his temper unsettled. Nobody was sad to see him go. Evelyn felt lighter each day. She sewed new clothes. She learned to ride Amber, the gentle mare. She helped Daniel repair the barn roof, plant seeds for spring, and feed the chickens. Their teamwork grew natural, almost effortless. One evening, they sat on the porch again. The stars above shone bright, and the land was quiet. Evelyn looked at Daniel with soft eyes. I want to stay, she said, her voice strong and certain. Not because I have to, but because I feel at home here with you. Daniel turned toward her, his expression gentle. You're welcome to stay for as long as you want. This ranch is your safe place. Evelyn's eyes warmed. It feels like more than a safe place. It feels like a new life. Daniel looked at the sky, then back at her. Then let's build that life. Slow, steady, and honest. Evelyn smiled. Not a small smile, but a full, bright one, the kind that comes from healing. That night, she stood with Daniel on the porch, the cool wind touching their faces. She knew her past would not define her. She knew her future could be built on trust, respect, and kindness. Daniel didn't claim her. He didn't rush her. He simply stood beside her, offering quiet companionship, and she chose to stay. Chosen out of hope. Not fear, chosen out of trust, not desperation, chosen because the lonely rancher who once stood alone now stood with her. And she with him. Their new life had just begun. Peaceful and honest, under the wide western sky,